Let's bring in two guests now to flesh out some of the arguments about a military strike that may be only days away. Joining us from Paris, French author and philosopher Bernard-Henri Lévy, who played a key role in persuading former President Nicolas Sarkozy to intervene in the Libyan conflict 2 years ago. And from our London studios, former British Member of Parliament Tony Benn, who's also president of the Stop the War Coalition. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us. Tony Benn, I wonder if we could start with you. The President of the United States wants to see Syria punished and deterred for using chemical weapons. The Prime Minister of Britain wants to see it. The Syrian opposition wants to see it. Why isn't it the right thing to do?
Well, it is a war that is being discussed. 75 years ago, coming home in a troopship from the Middle East as an RAF pilot, I heard the Charter of the United Nations, and the words open in this way. It said, "We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has caused untold suffering to mankind." The UN is about peace and how you can find peace, and to try and use the UN to make war over this question is very, very dangerous and I think illegal.
Well, the UN may be an important institution, but in this context, it's not really what the conversation is about. It's about chemical weapons in Syria. Bernard-Henri Lévy, does the world have a moral obligation to intervene?
Well, I think
of course, a moral and a legal obligation. Since 2005, there is a duty to intervene, a duty to protect, which has been voted by the United Nations. But moreover, what is at stake today is the credibility of America. President Obama said that there is a red line which should not be crossed. It has been crossed. Now, two solutions. If really the word of Barack Obama has still a sense, and I do believe it has a sense, I'm a great admirer of him, there is an obligation of punishment. If nothing happens, then North Korea, Iran, Al-Qaeda, all the enemies of the free world will deduce, will conclude that America has lost its credibility.
I can hear Tony Benn trying to break in from London. What were you hoping to say?
Well, I don't think this is a war to justify President Obama's credibility or Prime Minister Cameron's credibility. It is a war that these countries want because they want to intervene in the Syrian civil war, and this is the excuse they're using. But I don't believe that the United Nations
It is
Charter...
a war to save. It is a war to save civilian lives. First of all, it is a war to stop use of gas. Second thing, do you say yes or do you say no to use of gas? This is the moral question of today. Are we in favor of gas or do we think that gas is a shame? This is the dividing line of today.
Tony Benn?
Well, millions of civilians have already become refugees from the Syrian war, and although chemical weapons are a terrible weapon and have been denounced by international bodies, you mustn't pretend that this is about protecting life, because life is being lost on a huge scale because of the existing use of ordinary weapons.
I want to jump in with another question because, forgive me, gentlemen, if the idea here is to protect civilian lives, then the war has to be brought to an end. And Bernard-Henri Lévy, I don't think that's the plan. The plan, as stated, is not to try to end the war. It's to punish the use of these weapons. The war could drag on and take a great many lives, even if this limited intervention goes ahead, and even if it succeeds in its modest goals.
Well, it is a war. We are being asked to go to war, and this war will have consequences of a very profound nature in the Middle East. What will Iran do? What will Egypt do? This could lead to a really, really serious international crisis, and the fact that we said we were doing it to protect life will not carry any weight with world public opinion.
You have any thoughts about that?
The question today is, do we accept that Bashar al-Assad kills tomorrow with gas or without gas, new others, hundreds of people? Do we accept that? Or do we decide to stop the bloodbath, and if we stop the bloodbath, it will weaken the enemies of the peoples in this area. It will weaken Iran. It will weaken Hezbollah. It will weaken all the forces which are against democracy and the peoples. Therefore, it is not a war to make war. It is a war to create more peace in this area and in this country, which is really torn out and destroyed in a savage way since 2.5 years.
So you are saying, Bernard-Henri Lévy, you are saying that the West must topple the Assad regime?
No, what I'm saying is,
of course, when a dictator has decided to gas its own people, when he has already killed 120 of these citizens, when 1 million refugees are abroad, then there is a moral duty to topple the dictator, or at least to leave him a sort of any exit possible, but he has lost any right to govern its people.